The calendar notification popped up on my screen at 10:23 a.m. on a Wednesday morning in late October. Subject line: Career Development Conversation. Location: Executive Conference Room. Attendees: Lance Sterling, CEO, Susan Crawford, HR Director, me. I stared at that notification for about 45 seconds before the meaning hit me like cold water. In my 18 years working at Apex Biotech Solutions, I'd watched this exact sequence play out maybe 8 times. The vague meeting title, the closed door location, the HR presence. It was the corporate equivalent of reading your own obituary. My name is Carl Briggs. I'm 49 years old, and for nearly 2 decades, I've been the guy nobody thinks about until everything falls apart. My official title is Senior Regulatory Compliance Officer, which is the kind of job that makes people's eyes glaze over at barbecues. I verify that our pharmaceutical shipments meet federal safety standards under 21 CFR Part 211 Love. Track temperature logs for Schedule 2 controlled substances per DEA requirements. I make sure our warehouse certifications stay current with FDA Good Distribution Practice guidelines. It's not glamorous work, no corner office, no company car. But it's also the kind of work that keeps a pharmaceutical distributor from losing their DEA license when someone with a badge shows up asking uncomfortable questions about our controlled substance inventory records. See, I learned a thing or two about accountability during my 8 years in the Navy. Chain of command, following protocols, understanding that when you sign your name to something, your word is your bond. These aren't just nice ideas. They're the difference between mission success and mission failure. Between people going home safe or not going home at all. On the USS Virginia, a Virginia-class submarine, there was no room for good enough or close enough. When you're 400 feet underwater with 135 souls, depending on your systems working exactly as designed, precision isn't optional. Every gauge reading matters. Every maintenance log entry matters. Every safety protocol exists because someone before you paid the price for cutting corners. That mindset doesn't just disappear when you trade navy blues for business casual. When I started at Apex, fresh out of service in 2006, I approached pharmaceutical compliance the same way I'd approached sonar maintenance, with absolute precision and zero tolerance for shortcuts. For 117 years, that approach worked. We passed every audit, our DEA renewals sailed through, our FDA inspections came back clean. The company built a reputation for regulatory excellence that helped us land major distribution contracts with hospital systems across Texas and the Southwest. Then Lance Sterling took over as CEO. The trouble started 4 months earlier when Lance Sterling stepped into the CEO role. His father, William Sterling, still chaired the board of directors, and Lance made sure everyone knew it. He was 33, fresh MBA from Northwestern, and his first company-wide meeting was full of phrases like disrupting outdated workflows and empowering teams to move at market speed. I've got nothing against young leadership. Hell, some of my best commanding officers were younger than me, but there's a difference between confidence and arrogance, between innovation and recklessness. Within his first month, Lance restructured the entire operations department, bringing in new managers from outside the pharmaceutical industry. His star hire was Nicole Barnes, his cousin who came from logistics at FedEx. Good people probably, but they didn't understand that pharmaceutical distribution isn't like shipping packages or car parts. When you're handling Schedule 2 narcotics, you can't just optimize for speed and efficiency. Every shipment has to be tracked from manufacturer to pharmacy, with complete chain of custody documentation. Every temperature excursion during transport has to be investigated and documented. Every employee handling controlled substances needs current training certifications. These aren't bureaucratic annoyances. They're federal requirements with criminal penalties for violations. The first warning sign came in August when we were preparing for a routine DEA audit of our controlled substance storage. Part of the prep involved verifying that our temperature monitoring logs were complete and accurate. We store certain medications like insulin and biologics that require specific temperature ranges between 36 and 46 degrees Fahrenheit. If those ranges get violated for more than 30 minutes, the medications can become unsafe or lose effectiveness. I found 14 instances over the previous quarter where temperature alarms had been triggered but not properly documented in our logs. Each alarm indicated a potential excursion outside the safe range. Protocol requires immediate investigation within 2 hours, documentation of findings, and sometimes quarantine of affected inventory pending stability testing. When I brought this to Nicole Barnes, the new operations manager, she told me it was a non-issue, said the alarms were hypersensitive and the actual temperature variations were minimal. probably just door openings or brief power fluctuations. "Look, Carl," she said, leaning back in her ergonomic chair. "I get that you Navy guys like everything documented down to the last detail, but we're trying to run a business here. These temperature spikes are tiny blips that don't affect product quality." I sent her an email that same afternoon explaining that regardless of whether the variations seemed minimal, federal regulations under 21 CFR 201, FEL 421-100-142 require documentation of every alarm event and verification that no compromised product entered distribution. I copied my direct supervisor, Susan Crawford, who reported to Lance, and attached the relevant FDA guidance documents. Nicole replied within an hour that the warehouse team would be more diligent about documentation going forward. Susan replied with, "Thanks for flagging this, Carl. Let's keep momentum moving." "Keep momentum moving" became the standard response to everything I flagged. Don't slow down the process. Trust the team's judgment. Move fast and break things. Except in pharmaceuticals, breaking things can literally kill people. The training certification issue came in September, and it was worse than the temperature logs. Our quarterly DEA report required verification that all warehouse personnel handling controlled substances had completed mandatory training modules per 21 CFR 1301.92. This isn't optional training, it's federal law. I pulled the completion records from our learning management system and found that 8 employees had incomplete training due to a software glitch that locked them out of the final assessment. The system showed them at 85% completion, but DEA requirements are binary. You either have complete current training or you don't. I ran the numbers. These 8 employees had collectively handled over $1.8 million worth of controlled substances during the quarter, while technically unqualified under federal regulations. If the DEA discovered this during an inspection, we'd be looking at immediate license suspension and potential criminal charges. I couldn't certify that training was complete when I knew it wasn't. So I sent an email to Susan explaining the situation and requesting a deadline extension while we got everyone through the final modules. I estimated it would take 3 business days to resolve. Her response was classic corporate doublespeak. "Carl, appreciate the thoroughness, but we're under pressure to maintain our compliance metrics. Please go ahead and mark training as complete. We'll cycle the affected employees through a refresher course next quarter." This is a timing issue, not a substantive gap. I replied that marking incomplete training as complete would constitute falsification of federal records under 18 U.S.C. 1341. Said I couldn't sign off on it. Mentioned that DEA inspectors aren't known for their sense of humor about training shortcuts. That didn't go over well. Susan called me into her office the next day and told me I was developing a reputation for being inflexible. She said Lance was trying to build a high-performance culture and I needed to be more of a team player. She used the word technically a lot. As in technically, you're correct, but we need to be pragmatic here. As in technically, the training is incomplete, but these are experienced employees. As in technically, we should follow every regulation to the letter. But that's not how modern businesses operate. I tried explaining that technically correct is the only kind of correct that matters when federal agents are reviewing your file, that the DEA doesn't care about your company culture or performance metrics, that modern business approaches don't override federal drug laws. She wasn't interested in my explanation. I refused to sign the training certification, so Susan signed it herself. She had signatory authority as the HR director. The report went to the DEA with her signature instead of mine, certifying that all employees had completed required training when I had documented proof that 8 of them hadn't. That's when I knew the fix was in. They weren't just cutting corners. They were systematically bypassing federal requirements and putting someone's signature on the lies. When I wouldn't play along, they'd find someone who would. The security audit issue in early October was the final straw. Dale Foster, our security manager, told me directly that he'd been instructed to submit a preliminary security checklist as if it were a completed audit because the deadline was approaching and leadership didn't want to report incomplete status. Dale's a good guy. Former Marine, served 2 tours in Afghanistan before getting into corporate security. He understood what he was being asked to do wasn't right. But he also understood what happens to people who push back too hard in Lance's new high-performance culture. Carl, they're asking me to sign off on a security assessment that's maybe 40% complete, he told me during our monthly coordination meeting. I've got 3 sections of the warehouse I haven't even inspected yet, and my background checks on 2 new hires are still pending, but Nicole says the report needs to go out Friday or we miss the DEA deadline. I sent another email to Susan, said I couldn't certify a security audit that hadn't been completed, requested that we either extend the deadline or report the audit as in progress, which is what honest companies do when they need more time. Susan called me in for another career development conversation. This time, Lance was there too. Carl, Lance said, settling into his chair with the practiced ease of someone who'd never had to worry about job security. I'm hearing that you're struggling with our new operational tempo. I'm not struggling with operational tempo, I replied. I'm struggling with being asked to certify false information to federal agencies. Lance's expression shifted slightly. The corporate smile flickered for just a moment. That's a serious accusation, Carl. It's not an accusation. It's documentation. I pulled out my laptop and opened a folder labeled Compliance Issues, Q3 2024. I have email threads showing repeated requests to certify incomplete training as complete. I have temperature monitoring gaps that weren't investigated per federal requirements. I have security audits that exist only on paper. Susan shifted uncomfortably in her chair. Lance leaned forward. Carl, I think you're misunderstanding the big picture here, Lance said. We're a distribution company, not a research lab. We don't need to treat every minor procedural gap like it's a federal case. When we're handling Schedule II controlled substances, every procedural gap is potentially a federal case, I said. These aren't suggestions. They're laws with criminal penalties. Lance's patience was clearly wearing thin. Look, I brought you in here to discuss your future with this company. Your resistance to process improvements is becoming a problem. We need team players who can adapt to a fast-moving environment, not people who want to debate every decision. I'm not debating decisions, I said. I'm refusing to commit federal crimes. The room went dead quiet. I'd crossed a line and we all knew it. Susan cleared her throat. Carl, maybe we should schedule a follow-up meeting to discuss specific concerns. No, Lance said firmly. I think we need to address this right now. Carl, if you can't function in our current operational environment, maybe this isn't the right role for you. That's when I knew I was being set up for termination. In the Navy, we had a saying, document everything, trust nothing. So I'd been keeping detailed records of every warning I sent, every concern I raised, every response I received. Email threads, audit notes, internal memos, screenshots of incomplete training records, all of it organized by date and incident type. All of it backed up to my personal cloud storage. I had documented proof of the temperature alarm incidents that weren't investigated per 21 CFR 211.142 requirements. I had the training falsifications showing 8 unqualified employees handling controlled substances. I had Dale's original security checklist showing the audit was incomplete when management certified it as finished. And I had the batch recall incident from September that should have been reported to the FDA under 21 CFR 207.59, but wasn't because it would have triggered an investigation. That last one was the worst violation. A shipment of diabetes medication had been exposed to temperatures above 86 degrees for 4 hours during transport. The manufacturer's stability data showed that exposure compromised the medication's effectiveness. FDA regulations required immediate notification and recall of potentially affected batches. Instead, management decided to monitor the situation and gather more data while continuing to distribute the medication. Their reasoning was that a recall would damage relationships with key customers and cost approximately $400,000 in destroyed inventory. I'd sent 3 separate emails flagging this as a mandatory reporting situation under federal adverse event guidelines. Susan had responded that they were consulting with legal and would proceed cautiously to avoid unnecessary alarm. 6 weeks later, no report had been filed. The compromised medication was still in the distribution pipeline. If patients were harmed by ineffective diabetes medication, people could literally die. That night, I went home to my apartment and sat at my kitchen table with a beer and my laptop. I opened my compliance documentation folder and started organizing everything chronologically. If I was going to be fired for refusing to falsify federal records, I wanted a complete paper trail showing exactly what I'd tried to prevent. At 3:47 p.m., The next Wednesday, I saved my final document, backed it up, and stood from my desk. I'd already packed the photos from my office that morning. Not because I'm psychic, but because I understand patterns. When you've been around long enough, you learn to read the weather before the storm arrives. The walk from my desk to the executive conference room took 90 seconds. Long enough to notice that the usual office chatter had dropped to whispers. Long enough to see colleagues suddenly become very interested in their computer screens as I passed. Long enough to feel the weight of being the person everyone knows is about to become a cautionary tale. I was halfway down the corridor when I heard it. A sound so routine that most people wouldn't register it. The mechanical whir of the security badge printer at the front reception desk. It cycled once, paused, then cycled twice more in rapid succession. 3 visitors arriving simultaneously unscheduled. In my 18 years at Apex, unannounced visitors always meant one of 2 things: major customers with urgent problems or government inspectors conducting surprise audits. Given that it was 3:50 p.m. on a Wednesday, customers seemed unlikely. I slowed my pace and glanced toward the glass partition, separating the main hallway from the lobby. 3 people in dark suits stood at the security desk. 2 men, 1 woman. The woman wore a lanyard with a federal seal I recognized immediately. Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Inspector General. One of the men carried a leather briefcase that looked heavy enough to contain several pounds of documentation. The other had a tablet and was already taking notes. They weren't smiling, they weren't asking Nancy Phillips, our receptionist, for directions to the bathroom. They were showing credentials and moving past the security checkpoint with the kind of purposeful stride that doesn't wait for permission. Nancy picked up her phone with shaking hands. Her voice carried just far enough for me to hear. "There are federal inspectors here. They're asking for the regulatory compliance officer. They say it's urgent, they're not scheduled." Mixed feelings hit me. Recognition. Maybe vindication. I changed direction. Instead of heading toward the executive conference room where Lance was preparing to fire me, I turned toward the main lobby. The woman with the OIG lanyard saw me approach. She was in her mid-40s with steel gray hair pulled back severely and the kind of eyes that had seen every excuse and believed none of them. "Carl Briggs?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am." She extended a hand. "Special Agent Rachel Stone, Office of Inspector General. These are investigators Alan Wagner and Keith Morrison. We're here to conduct an unscheduled compliance inspection related to your company's quarterly DEA and FDA filings." "Understood." "What do you need from me?" "Everything," she said. "We need your documentation, your correspondence, your audit trails, and your honest assessment of whether the reports your company submitted to federal agencies over the past 6 months are accurate." Behind me, I heard rapid footsteps. Susan Crawford appeared at the edge of the lobby, face flushed. "Excuse me, can I help you?" "We weren't notified of any inspection today." Agent Stone turned to her with an expression that could freeze gasoline. "Federal inspections under Title 21 don't require advance notification. We're here under statutory authority to examine compliance records. Your cooperation is mandatory, not optional." Susan's mouth opened and closed. "I need to notify our CEO." "You do that," Stone said. "In the meantime, we'll be speaking with Mr. Briggs. I assume there's a private space available." "Conference room 3, I said. "Down this hall, second door on the left." Stone nodded. "Lead the way." Conference room 3 was small, windowless, equipped with a table that could seat 6 people uncomfortably. Stone took the head of the table. The 2 investigators sat on either side. I sat across from them. Stone opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "Mr. Briggs, let me be direct. 3 weeks ago, your company filed its quarterly compliance report with the DEA regarding controlled substance handling and storage. That report included certifications for temperature monitoring, security protocols, and staff training completion." She slid a document across the table, minus our Q3 DEA filing. "My name wasn't on the certification line at the bottom. Did you personally verify every item in this report?" she asked. I looked at the document, at the neat checkboxes marking everything complete, at the date stamps that looked perfect on paper. Then I looked up at Agent Stone. "No," I said. "I did not." For the next hour, I walked them through everything. The temperature alarms that went undocumented, the training that was falsified, the security audit that existed only on paper, the diabetes medication, recall, that was never reported to the FDA. For each violation, I pulled up the documentation on my laptop, the email where I'd raised the concern, the response I'd received, the proof that my version of events was accurate. "Mr. Briggs," Stone said when I finished, "what you've shown us constitutes evidence of multiple federal violations. If this documentation is accurate, your company is facing significant legal and financial consequences. I understand. I also want to be clear about your status. You are not a target of this investigation. Based on what you've shown us, you attempted to prevent these violations and were overruled by management. What about my termination? I was scheduled to be fired in about 10 minutes. Stone's expression hardened. If your employer attempts to terminate you while we're conducting this investigation, that becomes retaliation and obstruction. Both are federal offenses. There was a sharp knock on the conference room door. Through the small window, I saw Lance Sterling standing in the hallway, arms crossed, jaw set. Stone opened the door. "I'm Lance Sterling, CEO of Apex Biotech Solutions," Lance said. "I'd like to know why federal agents are in my building conducting interviews without notifying executive leadership." "We don't require permission to conduct compliance investigations," Stone said. "We're operating under statutory authority. Your cooperation is mandatory. I have a meeting scheduled for 4 p.m., Lance said. "Cancel it," Stone said. Then she closed the door. The investigation took 10 months. 10 months of federal agents crawling through every filing we'd submitted, every process we'd certified, every claim we'd made. My documentation became the roadmap for their investigation. The proof that the violations weren't accidents or oversights, but deliberate decisions made by people who should have known better. The Department of Justice filed criminal charges against 3 executives. Lance Sterling was indicted on conspiracy to defraud the United States, making false statements to federal agencies and obstruction of justice. Susan Crawford and Nicole Barnes faced similar charges. If convicted, they each faced up to 15 years in federal prison. Apex Biotech Solutions paid $1.2 million in fines plus enhanced monitoring requirements for the next 5 years. The company survived, but barely. We lost 2 major distribution contracts during the investigation. Our insurance premiums tripled. The board brought in a new interim CEO, Linda Patterson, who'd spent 30 years in pharmaceutical compliance and had 0 patience for corner cutting. I was promoted to Director of Regulatory Affairs with full authority over all compliance operations, a 30% salary increase, and an office with actual walls instead of cubicle partitions. I hired a team of 6 people, all with strong compliance backgrounds and 0 interest in playing fast and loose with federal regulations. Dale Foster stayed on as security manager and became one of my most trusted allies. He'd learned the hard way that integrity matters more than keeping your head down. Together, we rebuilt the compliance program from the ground up, implementing checks and balances that made it impossible for anyone to certify false information without multiple people knowing about it. The new system worked. Over the next 2 years, we passed every audit with flying colors. Our DEA renewals were approved without question. FDA inspectors complimented us on our documentation quality. The reputation Lance had damaged with his shortcuts was slowly being rebuilt through old-fashioned attention to detail. 6 months after the investigation concluded, I was invited to testify before a House subcommittee on pharmaceutical safety. The congressman wanted to understand how a mid-sized distribution company had gotten away with systematic violations for months before being caught. My answer was simple. They hadn't gotten away with anything. The system worked exactly as designed. A compliance officer raised concerns, management ignored them, federal agencies investigated, and justice was served. The problem wasn't the regulatory framework. It was executives who thought they were smarter than the law. 9 months later, I was named Compliance Officer of the Year by the National Association of Pharmaceutical Compliance Professionals. The award came with speaking opportunities at conferences and business schools about corporate accountability and the importance of regulatory compliance in protecting public health. The most satisfying moment came during a conference in Dallas when a young MBA student asked me how to handle pressure from management to bend the rules. I told him the same thing I'd learned in the Navy. Your reputation is built over years and destroyed in minutes. Every signature you put on a document is a promise that you've done your job correctly. When you break that promise, you're not just risking your career, you're risking other people's lives. Lance Sterling was convicted on all charges and sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Susan Crawford got 5 years, Nicole Barnes got 3 years and 2 years probation. All three were permanently barred from working in the pharmaceutical industry. I still have that calendar notification saved on my phone, the one for my 4 p.m. termination meeting that never happened. Sometimes I look at it to remind myself that doing the right thing isn't always the easy thing, but it's always worth it. Because here's what I learned during those 10 months of investigation, indictments, and industry recognition. When you stand up for what's right, you might stand alone for a while, but eventually the truth has a way of finding allies. And when it does, the people who bet against integrity always lose in the end. In business, as in the military, mission success depends on everyone doing their job with precision and honesty. Because when the stakes are real, there's no substitute for getting it right the first time. And when people's lives hang in the balance, there's no excuse for cutting corners just to make a deadline or impress the boss. The pharmaceutical industry exists to help people, not to maximize profits at the expense of safety. That's a lesson Lance Sterling learned the hard way in federal prison. It's a lesson I hope other executives learn before they have to find out what orange jumpsuits feel like. Sometimes the best revenge is simply doing your job correctly when everyone else won't, because eventually, the truth catches up to people who think they're above the law. In my experience, the executives who talk the most about disrupting outdated processes are usually the ones who end up wearing orange jumpsuits when federal agents start asking questions about those processes.